Next question here, Buster from Yuba City, California. How easy is LSU's schedule this upcoming season? Is it really win now mode for Lane Kiffin? So this really stemmed from, at least I'm assuming this stemmed from a quote that Bud Elliott from Cover Three when he was doing his summer school series, which is videos he does during the summer. He talks to all of the 247 sites, leaders or head lead reporters and whatnot. He just kind of asked him, hey, what do you think of the team, and kind of go over, all the new additions, whether it's on the portal, recruiting, and certain key positions of the team. And so when Bud did his interview with the LSU site, I think it's Go247, he brought up an interesting quote, or an interesting part about how easy LSU's schedule is. And I don't have the footage with me because I don't want to get copyright. Yes, I know they probably won't copyright me, but I would just read off the quote and we'll sort of go over it. But so Bud's quote is starts off with, his quote begins with, quote, Ole Miss is like 4th or 5th, toughest schedule of the year in the SEC schedule. It feels pretty much cakewalking compared to some of the ones I have seen. A&M comes to town at Kentucky. That's in rebuild, or that's a rebuild. Mississippi State again, they don't spend, so shouldn't be competitive. At Auburn, I don't know. They're probably struggling to make a bowl game. So what Bud's saying here is, if you look at LSU's schedule, it's a very friendly schedule. I mean, yes, you get Clemson in the non-con. Yes, you get A&M. Yes, you get Ole Miss. Yes, you get Bama. Yes, you do get Texas. Yes, you do go to Tennessee. But a lot of these games, and I do somewhat agree with them, a lot of these big games, and I've said this before, they're at home. You get Clemson. It's at home. Texas A&M. It's at home again for the second straight year. You get Alabama. Yes, that's going to be a tough game, but voila, it's at home. Texas, ditto, it's at home. And then you also have the games on the road, which include Arkansas. I agree with them, not really competitive. Tennessee, we'll see where they're at by November 21st. At Auburn, kind of unfortunately agree with him too. You're probably going to be facing a team that's going to be desperate for a huge win, because they're probably going to be struggling. Then you get, let's see, Ole Miss on the road, but that's early in the year, and you could take a loss in that game, and I don't think anyone's going to be upset, because Ole Miss should be a fairly competent team. So what Bud's trying to say is that this schedule, how it sets up with a lot of your big games at home, it's pretty friendly for you, and I somewhat agree. And I think there is a lot of emphasis, especially after what you just experienced with Brian Kelly, is that you need to get to the playoff. Because the last time LSU made it to the playoff was win everyone 2019. That was almost a total decade ago, and that's not good enough at LSU. That is not the standard there. The standard at LSU is to get to the playoff, or at least be competitive for the playoff every single year. So I do agree with Bud that it is somewhat of a win now mentality. Now, does that mean that, if they go, 9-3, they miss the playoff, is Lane Kiffin going to get fired? No, that's not going to happen. I would be really shocked by that. But on the flip side, there's going to be a lot of folks who are going to be very angry about that, because this team, the way it's set up with the portal additions, and you're bringing in Sam Leavitt, depending if he's really healthy, which I think he's going to be. You kept Blake Baker. You have a very, I think, based on other schedules in the SEC, or at least compared to the rest, it's fairly friendly. That would be disappointing. So I do agree with Bud that this is a year that, how it's made with the schedule and the roster, that LSU, at least of this year, is somewhat of a win now mode for Lane Kiffin. Now, again, is he going to get fired if they don't make the playoff? No, but I think you are going to see a lot of folks be very angry about the fact that, man, you had Kentucky on the schedule, you had Mississippi State, you had Arkansas, you had Auburn, and you didn't make the playoff? Come on, really? Really? Now, I've seen a lot of folks who've looked at Bud's comments here about saying, oh, Kentucky, that's a rebuild. Mississippi State, they don't spend. Auburn, probably struggling to make a bowl game. I understand a lot of folks see Bud's comments here and going, oh, Matt's kind of degrading. That's kind of like he's being kind of an asshole about it. I will defend Bud here and say he's being brutally honest. Again, we literally talked about this last time. The teams he mentioned, except for Auburn, we'll circle back to them here in a moment. The teams he mentioned here, like Kentucky, Mississippi State, those are two programs that you would consider, or at least what he would consider, take the checks, take the losses type programs. Just be like you're in the SEC, you're getting all the money. Yes, it sucks that you're not in the conference that's winnable, but you're getting the money. Yes, their fans are going to suffer, but that's okay. You can just fire you can fire your coach in the next few years, restart the hype cycle. Okay. And so, I do unfortunately agree with Bud here. Well, not unfortunately, but I think for some folks, unfortunately, I agree with Bud. I think with Kentucky and Mississippi State, that's just a reality. I don't know what else to say. He's being brutally honest. And the same with Auburn. Now, we'll talk about Auburn on the pre-recorded show that we're doing that will be debuting on 4th of July. That I will obviously expand more on that. But I do agree with Bud's statement here that Auburn, while, yes, their offense should be better, I think. Yeah, that should be better. They did get, they did upgrade in quarterback. But again, I know a lot of folks are going to be saying that you're being kind of a hater here. And look, I'm no hater of Alex Flesh. I do like his offense. I do really like it because it's the veer and shoot stuff. I think he is going to do, I think, probably better than Hugh Freeze. But again, because they lost people like Cam Coleman and several other folks to the portal who, again, yes, I will acknowledge they weren't probably the best leaders. And yes, they were probably bad personalities in the locker room. They're still freaking talented players. And I will guarantee you this, and I think Bud would definitely agree with me on this. Auburn's leadership ratio is going to plummet down. That's going to be probably barely hanging on the top 25. Okay? So that is an issue. That is something that you cannot ignore. So, again, we'll expand more on that in the episode that will debut later this upcoming week when we do their record projection. But, yeah, Bud's quote here from his interview with his summer school episode with LSU. I do agree. Now, again, do I think, again, if Lane Kiffin, if they don't make the playoff and they go 9-3, is he going to get fired? No, but again, I do agree with him in principle that this is a fairly friendly schedule. Like, it's not really, like, and he's right. Like, Ole Miss is the 4th or 5th toughest game on the schedule, and it's early in the year. So, yes, there is a little bit more urgency to win that game. But if you lose, it's like, okay, like, just go and win the rest of your games. They're very winnable. So, yeah, thank you there for the question there, Buster from Yuba City, California.